Okay, thank you. Well, hello everyone who may not know me. I'm Martell Teasley, Dean of the University of Utah College of Social Work. As I was just saying, my grandchildren are visiting me, and 5-year-olds don't obey too well, so they may pop in at any moment. I'm sorry for that distraction. But it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you to the college's second CEU webinar in 3 days. Even during a holiday week, the College of Social Work is on the move, as I like to say. These webinars illuminate the many ways our talented college faculty are working on many of the critical challenges confronting us today. Some of these challenges have been with us for generations, of course, and deserve special mention here. The College of Social Work acknowledges the land of the university, acknowledges the land of the University of Utah, uses, occupies indigenous land, and we recognize the deep history of Native people. And we are deeply grateful that the indigenous people in Utah preserve to protect this land for future generations. The college remains, come on, honey. All right, all right. Pardon? All right. Sorry about that. The College of Social Work acknowledges the land of the university. The college remains committed to supporting equity and diversity among our students, faculty, and staff, and even young people who appear when their granddad is working, but also our curriculum and through community engagement. For today's Quorum Talks with Teasley event, I'm honored to introduce the College of Social Work's Bill Spafford Endowed Chair, Dr. Meeyoung Min. Dr. Min's presentation, By the Company She Keeps, Personal Networks and Recovery in Substance Using Women, reflects her decades of research in this area, as well as the focus of the prestigious Bill S. Spafford Endowed Chair to improve the lives of women and their families in all of their configurations. In her work with longitudinal studies of substance use in women and their children, Dr. Min has focused on A, the long-term effects of childhood trauma among women with substance use disorders, and B, the developmental outcomes of children whose mothers use substance during pregnancy. Through this work, Dr. Min has established herself as a leading researcher in the field and a person deeply committed to providing substance using mothers with the tools they need to become skilled parents who can guard their children against the toxic effects of adversities such as poverty, discrimination, and violence. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Min's presentation and that you will continue to join us for our Quorum Talks with Teasleys, as well as the webinar series Dare to Care, launched this week by our new University Utah Criminal Justice Center Director, Dr. Emily Salisbury. Dr. Salisbury brings local and national expertise together to discuss the intersection of race and law enforcement. Upcoming webinars are set for August 4th and August 26th. The college's Grand Challenges for Social Work Speaker Series, which includes 4 events through the 2020-2021 academic year, so watch for news on these coming events. We hope these webinars serve you well. We know social workers are essential workers, and we want to do our part to prepare a new generation of social workers, as well as to support the pillars of the profession. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Min. Dr. Min, thank you for sharing your remarkable work with us. The screen is yours. Take care, friends.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dean Tisley, for wonderful introduction. So let me take my screen now. Hopefully everybody can see my, okay, let's just see the slideshow. All right. So in today's presentation, I'm going to start with some key characteristics of female substance use problems. And then also, I would like to discuss the importance of personal network in these women with substance use disorder and how we are going to assess these personal network component and structures. And also we are going to, I'm going to show you one case study to illustrate how we are going to assess using some visual tool. And then also lastly, share some lessons and some knowledge we gain over the years working with these substance using women. And then followed by a session of a Q&A. According to 2018 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, about 7.2 million females, adult females, had current substance use disorder, and about 5.4%, 128,000 pregnant women used illicit drugs, and about 10% drank alcohol. Close to 12% smoked cigarette. And among those 5.4% of pregnant women who used illicit drug, 4.7% used marijuana and close to 1% used opioid. And substance use during pregnancy is really significant public health problem because of its effects on the developing fetal brain, which may result in lifelong physical and neurological impairment. And also the unique piece of female substance use problem is women's prominent role in terms of caregiving. And we know that maternal substance use is a key predictor of child maltreatment and child welfare involvement. One characteristic of female substance use problem is telescoping effect. Although women, less number of women compared to men, start to use substance and also low level, but once they start to use that, their level of problem escalate very quickly to addiction problem. So that's we call telescoping effects. And also women's motivation of drinking or using drug is somewhat different from men's. Women tended to use alcohol and drug to regulate their mood and dealing with their stress compared to men, more like risk-taking, having a good time. And also we know that there is a high prevalence of childhood trauma and co-occurring mental disorder. Approximately 62 to 81% of adult women in drug treatment have been victimized by childhood abuse and interpersonal violence compared to general female population rate of 27 to 30%. And also childhood trauma could be a common etiological factor in co-occurring mental health problem among substance using women. What that means is that it's not mental health problem causing substance use or substance use is causing mental health problem. It's more like those two conditions function of childhood trauma, especially among women with substance use disorder. So women are likely to have been introduced to substance use by family members, friends, and partners, someone who in her network, and also tended to be surrounded by personal network with many members who also use drug and or alcohol. And their network members may have contributed to their trauma history, the perpetrators, enablers, or bystanders. So when women who has childhood trauma, maltreatment, especially sexual abuse, for them, their network is not useful for them. They tend to isolate themselves, and also they think that it is inadvisable, impossible, useless, or potentially dangerous to draw network resources. So women with SUD tended to have limited and inconsistent sobriety support within their network. So social network, personal network is a source of both stress and, of course, potential and actual support. And due to high prevalence of stigma and abuse and maltreatment among women with SUD, heightened stigma associated with women's substance use add to shame and secrecy surrounding entry into treatment. And custody and parenting concerns are primary reason for them to enter treatment. And women tended to enter treatment with less supportive personal networks compared to men. And establishing recovery-oriented network post-treatment is often a treatment goal and priority for women with SCDs. So understanding the context of substance use is very important, and personal network assessment allow us to do that. And personal network assessment examine the social context of a focal person, the woman with a CUD in this case, by enlisting the set of people known to that person, so network members, and collecting information about them, so the characteristics of those individuals, the network members, and evaluating the relationship we call ties in this area and connections among them. So I'm going to use the data from today's presentation, data using prospective longitudinal survey design. It is about 377 women recruited from 3 treatment programs, 2 intensive outpatient and 1 residential programs. All females. It's a woman-only program specialized for women in Cleveland, Ohio. People I joined to the University of Utah. These 3 programs are all county funded for financially disadvantaged consumers with little or no insurance. And we have interviews at 1 week into the program, and 1 month, 6 months, and 12 months post-intake. It occurred October 2009 to May 2012. The participant, the inclusion criteria for the study should be adult, meaning the age should be 18 or more, has been in the treatment for at least 1 continuous week in the current treatment, and had a diagnosis of substance dependence defined as DSM-4 within the last 12 months of entry into the study for at least 1 substance, including alcohol. We exclude that a woman with a known diagnosis of schizophrenia, and also if a woman taking medication prescribed for major thought disorder. The overall retention is about 81% at 12 months, and with about 82% women participating in the study provided at least 3 assessments out of 4. So it's quite good quality of the data. And those lost follow-up about those 18, 19% of the women are more likely to report higher trauma symptoms, so meaning that they have more trauma history, and also to have been in residential treatment compared to outpatient. The general characteristics of that group is about 36.5 years of age, and 60% African American, 21% living alone, 41% no high school graduation, only 10% employed, 73% on public assistance, and 65% never married. And the primary choice of their drug is cocaine for 57% and 47% alcohol, and also marijuana dependence, very similar number, and 73% have dual disorder, meaning co-occurring mental disorder, and 43% reported that lifetime history of homelessness, and 45% of those women, that woman 377, currently involved with the legal system, and 73% reported that previous treatment history. So this is not their first time of treatment. So how do we collect the person network? We use the EagleNet, which is a computer-based face-to-face personal interview using personal network software. And it is open source program. And if you can click this link, you can have some information. It's developed by Chris McCarthy, who is one of our consultant. And this is developed to collect and analyze personal network data. And it generated visualization, personal network structure. So you can see how those network, individual woman's network is organized in terms of the connectedness and clusters, the group of network members, and how they the density of the relationship. And researcher and practitioners create individual question within the module that you are interested in. So we create our own questions in terms of the substance use and support and recovery. So this EagleNet has 4 modules. The first module is about questions about that independent, the individual, the respondent, the woman. The second module is name of the network members. So we ask to provide 25 person's name that she had contact last 6 months. And then, so we get those names first, like Mary, Bob, Philip, Amy, and like that. And then we ask, who are they? What's the relationship with you? Whether it can be family member or even your child, your spouse, or someone you know from treatment, from your work or school, so forth. And then third module is asking about the question about each network member. So for each 25 network member, we call authors in this area. So it's just some professional jargon, but I think it would be nice to know. In each author, do you ask about whether the author, that person network member used alcohol, and also whether that person used that alcohol or drug with you, and also concrete support. So one of example would be giving you a ride or loaning money or providing childcare, something like that. And sobriety support, giving you support to stay sober, and also emotional support, being there for you or listening to you. So, and also we have a kind of reciprocal relationship, and whether those interactions are negative interaction, or it's also whether the relationship are very close, whether those support can be mutual help versus not. So whatever you are interested in that, you can create that question. And the last module asks about the relationship between members. So if you know that Bob and Amy, whether Bob and Amy knows, and Bob and Philip knows, and Bob and Jenny knows, and then whether Jenny and Philip knows, and Jenny and Anne knows, Anne and Jenny, and then Philip, like that. So you can think about this. There's a lot of questions and somewhat intensive for that sense. So let's show you, this is the program, and this is the name, the module, second module to showing that, asking about each person's name in your network who has a connection with your contact last 6 months. So you can see that list 25, you know, think of the people with whom you have any type of contact the past 6 months. So you provide that the names. So the first name and then last name initial. You can see that this person, Bob, Robert, Tony, Michael, Barbara, George, so forth. And then after that, we ask about who is Bob? Is that your family members or relatives? Or, you know, who are the Robert? Is that, is he, you know, someone from your treatment or from work, your school, things like that. And then next module is asking about that each individual network member authors. So whether Bob using alcohol or drugs, So the responses can be no alcohol or drug, alcohol only, drug only, and both. And this person responded that Bob using both alcohol and drug. So you can ask all 25 Arthur's network members ask this question about substance use. And also we ask whether Bob using alcohol drug with you. And then we ask question for all 25 members. And also we ask about sobriety support. So would Bob, this person, give you support to stay sober? So we ask that question to all 25 people in her network. With Bob, Mary, Anne, Philip. And also you can ask these questions that I didn't have all of them here. I'm just showing you as an example. You can ask about the riding, give you a ride, would Bob give you a ride? Or would Mary take care of your child, kind of provide some child care help. And then the last module, as I said, we are asking about whether they know each other. The network members know each other. The artists know each other independently of you. So it's really that woman's perception. Oh, I think they know each other. Or no, I don't think so. So that's the question. And then the response is not at all, likely, somewhat likely, very likely. So we have 3 response options. So this kind of questions kind of create that multiple variables. So the first one is kind of composition, which is the relationship, right? Characteristics of network members and how they are related to the talker person. Whether so as a member of the family or treatment-related artists, like treatment, like you knew her from AA, or she is your counselor. And also you can ask about whether that, like we ask about Bob using alcohol or drugs, and also whether you use with that. So that's the kind of characteristics of network member. And also we can get the information about, as you see, that the support availability. So among 25 members, how many of them are providing concrete support or emotional support or sobriety support? So we can count those numbers. So we can quantify the characteristics of network by the number of actors available for concrete emotional or sobriety support. And also we ask about the quality of relationship, which is that the number of actors with whether you have negative interactions, that person is very criticizing you and your when you talk, the way of you talk, or the way you dress, or whatever, it's negative interaction. And also whether that person, with Bob or Mary, you have close relationship, and also whether the nature of relationship is a reciprocal relationship. So these are the ones that you are getting from the those questionnaires. And with that those questionnaires, and then also the last module, we ask about whether they know each other, and that create this network structure variables, which is very unique to this program. So those network structure can provide a density, which is a cohesiveness, which is measured by the proportion of ties in the network relative to all possible ties. The program automatically calculates that. So it's density, it's how closely they are connected to each other. That's the density. The component, that's the number of groups or clusters in these 3 actors know each other and connected directly and or indirectly. And isolate is a number of actors not connected to anyone in your network. So there is maybe N, but N doesn't know anyone in your network. So that then it's the isolate. And centralization is the degree to which a network is organized around and or dominated one person. So that's centralization, that one person can be very critical person in your network because that person is the maybe center of the information or maybe connection, and that person can be your partner or maybe your mother or someone from in a very close relationship you met from treatment, or your child. So it kind of provides some idea that who might be the really strong person and how, whether it's one or two person or more than that, how that person it's more like significance in relation to your network. So let's start with some, I will illustrate one case study, Terry. And Terry is 23-year-old, single, never married, African-American female. Terry was placed in residential treatment at age 16, left residential at 18, age 18, and homeless between age 18 and 22. And she is a mother of 3 children. However, she doesn't have any custody currently. Mother and her siblings are in Virginia, where client is originally from, and she followed most recent boyfriend to Cleveland. To all the children in custody of her mother, she recently gave birth to infant, but the infant, the newborn, was positive to marijuana. And she endures the multiple trauma over her lifetime, including sexual abuse, discovering a dead body, sudden loss of significant others through violent crime. And she has disorder, kind of diagnosed with depression and mania and PTSD. So this is her Taiwan. That's a week into the treatment visualization of her network, focusing on the composition, which is the relationship. And you can see that there is color coding. So dark blue is partner, light blue, sky blue is family members. The child is light green, and there's another shade of green. It's somewhat difficult to distinguish, but it's from work or school, yellow from religious group or organization. And then there's orange color indicating professional helper. The red is from treatment program or AA or NA. And then the pink is other. And now there's different shape. So the circle shape is you're using alcohol or drug with that person. That's the yes. The square is no. So let's look at that. If so, there is EF, this person, which is partner. How do I know? Based on the color. And then circle, meaning her partner is using alcohol and drug with her. And also there is a couple of family members using with her, with Terry. But also there's lots of scares. So here is also this the professional helpers. There's 2 professional helpers. Then also there is someone from treatment program. Also there is some isolate. What is isolate? Someone who is not, artery is not connected to anyone. So there is a full isolate here. And then there is also there is kind of 2 people from treatment connected here. And then now you see here the LK. This is her newborn baby. Newborn baby. And now it's time 2, which is a month into the program. And you see that some changes. You can see there is a more treatment related person, like a program, professional helpers here, and also people from treatment. Here it's all isolated, but it's there. And still the Terry's partner here, and then also that baby. And then I see that there kind of the family members are somewhat, the number of family members are reduced from previous slide compared to Taiwan, right? Now times 3, which is 6 months into the program. And then now you can see that there's a big cluster kind of representing treatment program, and also some professional helpers. And now the partner, his partner EF is not perceived as partner anymore. It's still there, but now Terry listed him as other. And also I don't see that the baby anymore in this picture. And also there is clusters of professional helper. And this professional helper is also linked with her former boyfriend or partner. And then I see that this, I think RER, this person might be the new person which you didn't see before. And now I see that these two yellow, kind of green, light green, looks like she kind of connected with 2 other children. But there is still one family member using with her because it's a circle. And then also this RER, which connected with the treatment cluster component, using with her. So there's still at least 2 people here. Oh, 3, one more here. 3 people kind of using with her 6 months into the program, the treatment. Now let's switch to sobriety support. So it's time 1, which is 1 week into the program. And you see that now the same color coding in terms of the relationship, but now circle is hardly ever. And then square is sometimes. And pentagon is almost always. So pentagon indicate that this person provides support almost always, but the circle is hardly ever. So circle is somewhat problematic. And then you can see that there's a lot of pentagons, but you can see also some circles here. And there is other. In the other can be, someone new. I mean, it can be neighbor, or also it can be drug dealer, and also it can be your boyfriend's friends, or someone you knew or acquainted with when you're homeless. And this is time 2, which is 1 month into the program. And there's, as you said, we know the Pentagon is providing support almost always. Now you see that many of them providing, but still you see there is circles, 2 circles providing that no sobriety support. And then now you see the LK is the baby. Let's see that from here too. Baby, her newborn child, providing sobriety support. So Terry perceive a baby is a person who provides sobriety support in T1 and also time 2. And now it's time to reach 6 months. And you see that there's still circle, meaning that there's a person that not providing support, sobriety support. And I think also there is another one, there's circle there. So like about, I see the two little members, alters, not providing sobriety support. But other than that, everybody kind of providing sobriety support almost always. And then kind of interesting that if you remember the EF, her former spouse at time 3, but she reported as a partner and spouse time 2 and time 1. And if you remember, let's go back to previous slide about Eugene with her. He is using the alcohol and drug with her, but yet he provides sobriety support almost always. T1 and T2 and T3. So, of course, you can create this kind of visual illustration for other variables like concrete support, emotional support, and also the relationship like negativity and close relationship and reciprocal relationship. You can create that. And this is only Terry, but you can create, of course, everyone. Of course, it takes time, but it's possible. So the personal network assessment can be a tool to assess detailed information on personal network members. And key network members can be identified. And also we found it's very interesting. It's more like eye-opening for many women when we presented this kind of visual illustration to help women to reflect upon their own network. So, and also help in identifying structural piece of social network, like how each member are connected, and also how each members are not connected due to the size of clusters. So this kind of visual display aid in goal setting and monitoring progress over time in terms of recovery support. So for example, in this Terry's case, we can ask what are positive, negative support in Terry's network, what change might be helpful in network composition, and type of support, and what type of intervention might be helpful, and what are the barriers to interventions specific to her condition. So personal network assessment, this kind of routine, regular mapping of personal network relationships throughout the treatment provide a chance to gain insight as to how network members are connected to each other, how much support are honestly possible from the network, and also ways in which social, in which small structural changes could hold the potential to support treatment gains and trajectory. So this personal network assessment can be adapted as a component of treatment and lapse prevention planning. So remember that we have 377 women and we follow them for a year in terms of how their social, how their personal network change over time during the treatment, after those post-treatment. So we found that by 12 months post-treatment intake, of course, not everybody stay in that treatment. But by 12 months post-treatment intake, 41% women reported substance use, with 88 women reporting substance use at 6 months. And what we found that higher number of substance using alters and less densely connected network at 6 months follow-up were associated with increased likelihood of substance use by 12 months post-treatment intake. So if you have more number of alters network members who are using substance, then the woman are more likely to use substance by 12 months post-treatment. And also, if those network, remember that those structural piece, if those network are dense, it's less density, kind of loosely connected, then they are more likely to use substance use. Probably what we think that it's maybe those her network doesn't provide coherent message to her in terms of drug use behavior. And also interestingly, we found that a greater number of isolate. What is isolate? Isolate is that the network member, the actor, who doesn't have any relationship, no ties with other members of a network. And if you have more of those isolate, it's related to decreased chance of substance use. And when we look at further, what we found that those isolate are more likely to be non-users instead of users. So those isolate, although they are not connected with the network, but they are not using, they are not substance users. When we look at that other kind of support availability variables like concrete support, emotional support, and sobriety support, when we kind of control for other variables, meaning that her trauma history, trauma symptoms, treatment history, and also this kind of personal variable, we didn't find any relationship between support availability and likelihood of substance use. So many times in substance use treatment, one of treatment goal is changing people and place. But when you have your network very heavily occupied with family members and your siblings, your child, your spouse, then there's not much you can really change or eliminate those relationships. Then the one of way to deal with it will be disentangling, managing those networks, those relationships. So from our study, what we found that those disentangle from substance users. So how maybe we can manage negative ties when ties, those relationships cannot be eliminated through distancing from them or isolating them from them to decrease their negative impact on recovery. And those skill training and role play practice to deal with and plan for the typical interaction might be very helpful. So one woman mentioned that when one of her friends who are also drug users wants to give her kind of used baby clothing. And she wants to drop those baby clothing to her house or apartment. And she wants to, but our client know that if she come into the room, the apartment, they may end up drinking together. So our client trying to and insist that getting those baby clothing outside of her apartment. So maybe in front of the building, so she doesn't have to go next step and then end up drinking with her. So that kind of thing. And also maybe we can help women change the structure of their network. Remember that we found that the density of the network is also related to her likelihood of substance use and also isolate. So maybe we can kind kind of cultivate non-using isolate to help her to stay sober or to achieve recovery. And also adding those non-using network ties, and also building connections among existing network relationships. So she can get the more coherent, harmonized recovery support from the her network. So this study was not possible without the funding from NIDA, National Institute on Drug Abuse, and also the talented colleague and wonderful doctoral student. But mostly, I really provide sincere gratitude to the 3 treatment agencies and staff and the participant research in this research who really willing to share their life history and their struggles with our research team. So thank you so much. I think now I'm ready for questions and any comment. And Emily, maybe you can help with that.
Absolutely. We already have a few questions coming in. One is, can you clarify again? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I do. I can hear you.
Can you clarify again what is the difference between a circle and a square no on your graphics?
Say again?
Can you clarify again what is the difference between a circle or a yes and a square or a no on your graphics?
Oh, I'm sorry. The circle is that yes, the woman using the drug and alcohol with that person. So if in this case, the Terry is using drug or alcohol with EF, one of our slide, the EF, who is her partner. So that's the meaning. Circle is using and square is non-using.
Great. We have another question from Dr. Salisbury. Are the social networking analyses shown to the participating women in the study? She says it seems like a powerful opportunity to show how this visually is represented to recovering women and to reinforce their positive treatment engagement in changing relational dynamics.
So it's okay. Is that question or?
Yes. So are these networking analyses shown to the women that are participating in the study?
Oh yes, it is. So this is those network analysis. The Terry is one of research participants. So we kind of showing that her case just to illustrate, but you can do that over 377 women. However, I think when we analyzed this data collectively, we more like use that the variable like a number of alters in each woman's network who are using substance or alcohol or using weed, and or maybe the number of network members who are treatment-related alters, which indicating that it's more like recovery-oriented versus someone who are not. So that's what we used. In terms of those illustration, I think it's more useful to kind of individual client.
Great. And then another question we have is, why do you suppose that women who had more isolated alters in their network had a greater likelihood of not using as compared to those who had a less isolated alter?
I think we think that these women developed their own way of, to control their network, and having isolate, meaning that Terry knows that person, but that person is not necessarily related to rest of your network, who are more likely using, and or maybe you have some typical relationship. So the woman using isolate as a way to link with a world in a way that some different aspect of life, more healthy aspects of life to get better, to recover. So I think it's one of way, one tactic. That's what we think. And I think there can be also possible way to develop and then encourage women to do that. And those isolate can be anyone, like, someone who maybe you happen to know from some meetings, or it can be from AA treatment related one. Yeah. And of course, the isolate can be also someone who maybe you secretly want to use drug and alcohol. But in our study, we found that, remember, these women are in treatment setting, so they willing to get better. They have motivation to get better. And they use that. We think that that's their, whether consciously or unconsciously, they're trying to kind of change their network to be more supportive to their recovery.
Great. Another question that came in. Do you have any tools that you would recommend using to assess client networks?
I think it's kind of, that's a very good question. At this point, I don't think that any kind of, if you're asking about the tool that's showing the visualization, maybe not. And then you can see that it's quite intensive, intensive work to asking, 25 people, each member asking about, do you know each other, or Bob knows Anne, and knows Philip, and Philip knows Bob, all those things. However, there's some kind of, I think, more kind of simpler version, more like a paper pencil kind of things. I think it was available, but it doesn't necessarily provide those structure related to related variables. So that's kind of a problem. Actually, in our research team is really kind of trying to kind of make this tool to be more convenient and easy to use. And one way to do that may be kind of develop some kind of app to do. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, but it's still in the progress. But yes, that's, and that'd be nice if we can do that.
Awesome. We have another question about alters. This one says, in intervention treatment and based on the clusters, are students encouraged to find and develop more isolated alters? Also, should they be adding more isolated people to help their recovery?
I think there's multiple ways you can do, think about. So from our research, what we think that, those kind of adding non-using isolate might be one way. And the other one is that kind of trying to see who are the really center of the Dojo network. So like, we know that there is a kind of influencer in her network, and who might be that person, and then, kind of bring that person into the treatment planning and help kind of come up with that a way to kind of provide consistent and homogeneous support to the client, the woman in treatment.
All right, let's see. We have another question. Would you say that the social interconnections or social context is a determinant and correlated to relapses for these women?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So one of the things that this study we are talking about that the role of the person networks. And in our study, what we found that I think 3 things. after we control for what we think that we can control, like homelessness and trauma history and the number of previous treatment, and all those things, more education, all those relevant covariate, what we found that those number of, or percentage or proportion of substance using network members alters in her network is one strong correlate. Of course, it's very obvious. The second one is those density variable. So density is the how closely connected those the network members. The high density is related to less likelihood lapse. And the third one is isolate. And as we mentioned, is that when those isolate, I think it's non-users, then it's related to less likely of lapse. So those three things we found that in our study, in this sample, we found that it's related to the substance use relapse at 12 months post-treatment. So yes, they are related.
Great. One more question that we have is, any of your findings surprise you at all?
Can I say again?
Did any of your findings surprise you?
Surprise me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, surprise. Oh, it's, I think what we were very interested in that is also, so this is the NIDA funded study. So we have a series of studies and also it's published. And then also we have one publication using qualitative research. And what we found that is women really trying to manage their network members. So as we said, like when your network members are really mostly family and relatives and your children, and that you cannot really remove them from your network, then one way to do is managing. And their way of managing is they develop this kind of small tactic to kind of control those interactions. So that was very interesting. And then the other one is those law of isolate. And I think it can, as I say, it can go the other way. But for this group of women, they use the isolate as a way to kind of get better, kind of connected with a different aspect of society to promote their recovery. So I think that was very interesting finding. And that can be also, I think, we can think about as a practitioner to promote as a way to promote women's recovery.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Min. I think that we have covered all of the questions that have come in so far, unless we get any last minute questions. But thank you again for your excellent presentation, and thank you to everyone that's joined us today, especially right before we have a holiday weekend.
Yes.
You are looking forward for this event. Find the quiz in the webinar link email that I sent earlier today. And you can ask Paige Bolingbroke any questions that you have about those quizzes. But if we have, it looks like we don't have any other questions that have come in. So thanks again, Dr. Min. We hope everyone has a lovely and safe holiday weekend.
Yeah, thank you everybody for your attention, and wish you all well and stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.